of the worst family in Hong Kong's financial history.
Yeah.
It's more worse than the mafia. I mean,
Yes.
just legally, legitimately, they are legal.
But
you know.
I want to remark that this whole fiasco actually also highlights how unlevel the playing field, the so-called this free market, is actually a kind of winners take all market, right? This market is only favors all those big stockholders, right? Just like the other things about the Hong Kong exchange. About the forbidding of all those so-called big shareholders for selling their stocks among those so-called sensitive audit and period, right? This actually, when the big shareholders they voice their protest, then the whole Hong Kong exchange, this kind of so-called up to international arrangement has to be backed down. You see, this also are showing that the big shareholders in Hong Kong have all the say, all the cards with them.
And it's one interesting thing is that in the Hong Kong Chinese, whenever they talk about Richard Lee or sometimes Lee Ka-shing right now, and they all hate about, you can see Dr. Chen and I, seems very more angry than those topics we were talking about because they are affecting our lives.
Sure.
So how about you? I mean, you be a foreigner in Hong Kong, and actually you're a Hong Kong resident.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Lee's family?
Well, I mean, before I came to Hong Kong, I'd never heard of the Lee family actually. But obviously, once you get here, you realise how
omnipresent.
How powerful they are, and they've got their fingers in all the pies, basically, in a hell of a lot of the different businesses. And they've got a lot of power and political power as well as some financial and economic. Employ a hell of a lot of people, and it's Hong Kong. I think many foreigners, they don't quite realise that Hong Kong has got so many monopolies, basically.
Oh yes,
in just about every industry you can think of, from supermarkets to horse racing. There are monopolies. Completely taking over the whole market, and that's why they're I know there's some talk amongst in the English media about whether there needs to be a competition law.
Yes.
I don't know if there's any discussion about that in the Chinese media.
The government is very reluctant of implementing one, and many of those so-called local media, in a sense, they are quite biased, and they biased towards so-called completely liberal economy. So actually, they are against all kinds of any talks about this kind of anti competition law.
And what do you think about this?
Competition law.
What do you think about the Securities and Futures Commission, the SFC, who've moved in and they're going to investigate whether there's
they don't have teeth. In what they are doing, they're just trying to put up a show that they are trying to do something, but they are heavily criticized by the LegCo members. That means even one famous local weekly, which famous for digging up facts, and for 1 week, what they dug up has been more, double, and even triple what the FSC has done. That is a shame.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the question, isn't it, about the SFC? I mean, how independent are they, for example, from the government? They're meant to be an independent organisation, aren't they? In the same way that, like, the ICAC is meant to be independent, but it can never quite be independent, and they're probably worse than the ICAC.
Certainly.
Because it almost seems that they haven't got that much power.
Yes, they don't have the teeth.
Whereas the ICAC, they do, if they want to have the teeth.
Yeah, they do. They have almost too much power. So this week has a kind of news about them.
Yeah,
it means they are doping people too much.
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting to see how it's played out, because I know it's going to the High Court. This
eavesdropping too much. Yeah,
it's going to the High Court, isn't it? But to whether I think the High Court
doesn't do anything.
Whether they have to approve the plan to do with PCCW or not. But it will be interesting to see whether the Securities and Futures Commission actually come up with anything, or arrest anyone, or do anything actually worthwhile.
People in the street don't expect much from the SFC. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's back to a very simple question. Like, I remember when I was in primary school, the textbook told us that the ICACs directly report to the governor of Hong Kong. Okay?
Yeah.
So now the ICACs directly report to Donald Tsang. And they are their people, aren't they? I mean, the SFC. Yeah, it's the same thing, When the chief executive of Hong Kong is not a good guy, then how come everything can still be good if the system is corrupted?
No,
that's my
in a sense, the ICAC, so-called accountable to the governor. This is a kind of a British installed system, which makes it really putting teeth into its action. So that it has a kind of independence tradition, which allow them to have effective action. But for SFC or all these sorts of things, they are too much complicated in their so-called constitution, right? Who want to join? Maybe this faction has someone, the other faction has another one. So this kind are always just compromised so-called legal body, which actually doesn't do much, especially when crisis hit. You see the SFC. How does it behave? How did it behave in terms of the Lehman Brothers mini bond fiasco? It's still without any teeth and without any effective action.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. The other thing I think worth talking about is what's happened to the workers of PCCW. Because I've been reading about that. Quite a lot of the staff have had to agree to taking a 2% pay cut as well, and that's going to be interesting with the economic downturn, whether there's going to be more of that happening in terms of staff in different companies having to agree to have a pay cut.
Now, this pay cut of PCCW, we also have to view it in conjunction with also the Asia TV. Also installing such kind of so-called very, very harsh pay cuts. Right? Both actually, especially the PCCW, still earning money, but trying to actually the pay cuts, and actually is not once in a while thing or once for all thing. Is actually continuously. That means for the past 10 years, after Richard Lee took over, because of his heavily indebted from the bank loans, the syndicated loans, so he has to milk the company in order to pay back all these kinds of loans. So that actually for the past 10 years, the staff of the PCCW actually is complaining that he's not developing the company at all. He's actually wrecking the whole company. That's why actually for the past 10 years, the PCCW is not a growing company. So much so that even now the so-called the past reputation of Hong Kong being a communication hub and with high quality communication technology actually fades. Yeah.
So how do the activists fight for this kind of big company in the UK? I mean, for example, Tesco, Safeway.
Yeah, I mean.
BT. I remember I hate BT, British Telephone, very much.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, actually, just talking about the unions, actually, the unions are in quite a tricky situation with the economic downturn, you see, because there's this, the argument that it's better to accept some kind of pay cut rather than to lose your job, you see. And obviously, that you can see that, and I've from reading in the newspapers about the PCCW, the workers have almost sort of begrudgingly having to accept the situation because they understand that there is a danger otherwise that there's going to be mass layoffs. But obviously, comparing it to my country, in England, the unions are much, much stronger.
Yeah.
they're almost, it's a completely different world actually,
Yes.
as regards workers' rights and as regards power and respect.
For some background information, the government actually by 1997 they used the provisional legislation